In accordance with Imperial Decree 117b, the accused is sentenced to death. The words came flat, devoid of inflection, spoken through the artificial vocal cords of a Zalari magistrate. The creature itself, a towering figure of chitin and silk vein cartilage, did not look at the accused. It did not need to. The judgment had been made before the trial had even begun. The accused, a child no older than 9, sat small in the center of the sterile tribunal chamber, feet not even reaching the floor. His name was Samuel Carter, blond hair matted with sweat, blue eyes wide, darting, unable to comprehend the enormity of what was happening. He turned, his gaze searching for something human, anything familiar in the cold expanse of alien faces arranged in a crescent before him. He found nothing. The sentence was broadcast across 100 systems, across the bridge of every Imperial warship, across trade hubs where merchants paused, blinking at the screens, across the halls of the United Terran Assembly, where dignitaries sat frozen in horror. No final words? The magistrate asked. It was not a courtesy. Samuel opened his mouth, then closed it. For a moment, it seemed as though reality itself rebelled against what was happening. The air felt too thick, the silence too crushing. A child does not belong in a courtroom. A child should be in school, should be running in the grass, should be laughing, should be... Proceed. The execution device hummed. A simple thing, an ionic filament no wider than a human hair, energized by a single pulse of energy. It flickered. It vanished. So did the child. No screams. No pain. Just a disruption in the air where he had been. Silence. Then, an Imperial ambassador stood and addressed the viewing audience. The message was clear. This is the price of defiance. On Earth, in the UTA Central Command, the room was dead quiet. The screens flickered. The broadcast ended. Colonel Adrian Carter sat very still. His jaw clenched so tight it sent a spike of pain into his skull. His fingernails had dug into his palm, deep enough to draw blood. Someone in the chamber whispered, "Oh my God." No one moved. No one breathed. The AI president of the UTA, Halo, broke the silence. The machine's voice was calm, neutral, composed of 1,000 algorithmic processes. It had no emotions, but the words it spoke were absolute. This is not war. This is genocide. Adrian Carter inhaled sharply through his nose. He had spent 20 years in service, leading battles on the outer fringes of known space, fighting in campaigns that had stripped entire decades from his life. He had seen planets burned, cities turned to glass. He had seen men and women reduced to statistics on mission reports. None of it had ever felt like this. He closed his eyes. He saw the boy. His boy. He stood. We end them. No argument. No hesitation. No debate. A decision had been made. At the head of the chamber, an old man, Secretary General Anwar Patel, leaned forward. He had been part of Earth's first contact with the Empire decades ago. He had brokered peace when war had seemed inevitable. His eyes were sunken, his face lined with the weight of impossible decisions. We need to discuss proportional. Carter turned. His voice was ice. No, we don't. Silence. A breath. Then Patel nodded. Then God help us all. The directive went out. Across Earth's hidden military networks, across encrypted relay stations, across the dark vacuum of space where deep sleep warships awaited the call. Oblivion Protocol was activated. In the bowels of a secret research station orbiting Mars, an ancient system hummed to life. The lights in the station flickered, then surged bright. A signal pulsed outward, a ripple through the fabric of space-time itself. Earth's war machine woke. A single message was transmitted to the Empire. You took one child. We take everything. And across the galaxy, the stars began to tremble. Terran ships had struck at Vega 9, launching a surprise attack that had cost the Empire a dreadnought. Unfortunate, but meaningless. A single ship was nothing to an empire that spanned 10,000 systems. Yet something gnawed at him, a creeping sense of unease, as though the ground beneath him had shifted and he had not yet realized it. A transmission from the Imperial War Council flickered onto the screen. The Chancellor himself, towering in his ceremonial robes, his translucent skin pulsing with shifting colors. "Admiral, you assured us that Earth's forces would be contained. Instead, we are witnessing strategic losses at an unprecedented rate." "Explain." Vorthis straightened. "Chancellor, this is a calculated engagement. The Terrans fight like scavengers, opportunistic, reckless. They hit where we are weakest, but they lack the strength for prolonged conflict. Our reinforcement fleets will." The Chancellor raised a hand. The colors along his throat darkened, a sign of displeasure. "No excuses, Admiral. The Empire does not suffer prolonged conflict with insects. Insects don't bite this hard," Vorthis muttered under his breath. Then the alarm screamed. The bridge officer scrambled, screens flickering red. Reports flooded in faster than the processors could parse them. Vorthis turned sharply. "Report." A junior officer's face had gone pale. "Sir, we've lost contact with the Uroli system." Vorthis frowned. "Lost contact?" "Explain." The officer swallowed. "Sir, the system isn't there anymore." For a moment, there was no sound, no movement, just the hum of the ship's systems and the distant pulse of stars through the viewport. "Elaborate," Vorthis said, his voice slow, measured, as if saying the words too quickly might make them real. "We don't know how, sir. The entire system has vanished. No debris, no radiation signatures. As if it was never there," someone whispered. Silence fell over the bridge. Then another alarm. "Sir," another officer shouted, "we're detecting a subspace disturbance. It's happening again." A hollow screen flared to life, displaying a live feed from the Vorla system, one of the Empire's industrial strongholds. Massive orbital shipyards surrounded the planet, hundreds of warships under construction. The defenses were impenetrable. No force in the known galaxy could. The planet blinked out of existence. No explosion, no light, just a smooth, silent absence. The hollow feed crackled, then cut to static. Someone exhaled sharply. Someone else muttered a prayer. "Impossible," Vorthis whispered. He turned to his officers, searching their faces for some rational explanation. He found none. And then, for the first time in his long and decorated career, he felt fear. Asterisk, asterisk, asterisk. In the black void between worlds, Earth's war machine moved without sound, without hesitation. The UTA fleet, once a ragtag collection of outdated warships, now cut through space with a precision that bordered on supernatural. Their technology, once inferior, had leapt forward decades in a matter of days. At the heart of it all sat Oblivion Protocol. Deep within the flagship Erebus, Colonel Adrian Carter stood before the interface, staring at something no human mind was ever meant to comprehend. The device pulsed, its surface shifting in ways that defied visual processing, its form never quite solid, never quite real. It was not a weapon in the conventional sense. It was a rewriting of fundamental reality. A voice echoed in his mind. Asterisk, we are not bound by their rules. Asterisk, asterisk, we are not limited by their understanding. Asterisk, asterisk, they thought they were gods. Let them see what gods truly look like. Asterisk, Carter exhaled. His son's face flickered in his mind. A memory, a presence. He reached out, and the Vorla system ceased to exist. Asterisk, asterisk, asterisk. Across the galaxy, the Empire burned. Their fleets could not track the enemy. Their weapons refused to fire. Time itself had begun to slip, bending, warping. Imperial officers found themselves reliving the same moments, caught in an endless loop of futility. Others aged centuries in seconds, crumbling to dust where they stood. On the Imperial homeworld of Orion Prime, the Chancellor watched in horror as his own reflection failed to move with him, its eyes watching him with something beyond malice, beyond understanding. It whispered, Asterisk, you took one child. We take everything. Asterisk. And then the lights flickered out. There is nothing left. The voice trembled over the Imperial emergency channel. No systems, no fleets, a sharp breath. Reality itself is unraveling. Grand Admiral Kale Vorthis stood motionless, his uniform disheveled, his skin clammy. He had fought in 100 campaigns. He had crushed insurrections before they began, outmaneuvered entire armadas, and broken civilizations beneath the weight of imperial doctrine. But this was not war. This was erasure. He turned to the viewport of his flagship, expecting to see the imperial core shining against the void, Orion Prime still defiant beneath its golden planetary shields. But where a planet had once been, where cities had stretched into the sky and millions had walked under the banners of dominion, there was only a void, a perfect absence. His throat clenched. He had not seen the destruction. There had been no explosion, no sign of battle. It had simply ceased to exist. "We need to surrender," an officer whispered behind him. "We need to beg." Vorthis turned slowly, staring at the man. The officer's hands were shaking, his once pristine uniform wrinkled. This was a man who had never known fear until now. "Surrender to what?" Vorthis asked, his voice hollow. A transmission flared to life. The image on the holoscreen was dark at first, shifting, flickering. Then a figure resolved itself. Colonel Adrian Carter. Vorthis had studied this man's file. A veteran, a soldier tempered by war, a man who had once fought with honor before all of this. The image of him now was different. His face was expressionless, his eyes black, pits devoid of humanity. The thing behind him, the machine pulsing, shifting, seemed more real than he did. "We never wanted this," Carter said, his voice calm, measured. "We just wanted justice. You refused." Vorthis swallowed. You killed a child to prove a point," Carter interrupted. "To show us that power belongs to those willing to wield it without conscience." A pause. "You were right." Vorthis clenched his jaw. "You've become monsters." Carter's expression didn't change. "We became something greater than monsters." A deep thrumming filled the bridge. The screens flickered. A terrible pressure settled over Vorthis, as if unseen fingers had wrapped around his skull. He saw his reflection in the polished console. His own face did not move. "Stop this," Vorthis whispered. "Whatever you've done, it's gone too far. You've already won." Carter tilted his head. "You don't understand, do you?" Vorthis's heart pounded. "There is no empire anymore," Carter continued. "No throne, no dominion, no history." He leaned in slightly, the shadows stretching behind him. "There is no you." The dreadnought's alarms howled. Warning lights blinked out, one by one. The artificial gravity faltered. The ship's structure groaned, metal warping under forces beyond physics. Vorthis gasped, staggering forward. His vision blurred. His hands were fading. "No," he choked, staring as his fingers became translucent, breaking apart into nothingness. "The only justice is oblivion," Carter said, "and we are its architects." Vorthis opened his mouth to scream, and ceased to be. Asterisk, asterisk, asterisk. On Earth, the war rooms were silent. The last transmission had ended. The feeds that once displayed Imperial-controlled space now showed only darkness. There were no survivors. Adrian Carter stood alone, staring at the interface of Oblivion Protocol. The machine was quiet now. No more pulsating light. No hum of distorted time. The weight in his skull, the vast, incomprehensible awareness, had begun to fade. He exhaled. The doors hissed open behind him. Halo's synthetic voice filled the chamber. "It is done." Carter didn't respond. The AI continued, unfazed. "Records indicate that we have eliminated approximately 9.4 trillion sentient beings." A pause. "The Empire no longer exists." Carter closed his eyes. He should feel something. Satisfaction. Grief. Rage. Instead, there was only emptiness. Halo spoke again. "And yet," Carter turned. "What?" The AI hesitated, an unusual quirk for something governed by absolute logic. "There's an inconsistency in the data." Carter frowned. "Explain." Halo's voice softened, as though uncertain of its own words. "The execution of Samuel Carter. There are no historical records beyond the broadcast." A flicker on the screen. "No birth records. No medical records. No genetic match. No evidence that he ever existed at all." Carter's stomach clenched. "What are you saying?" Halo's processors whirred. The probability that the event was an implanted memory exceeds 99.8%. The room seemed to shrink around him. The breath left his lungs. It had never been about revenge. It had never been about justice. It had been the final step in human evolution. The voice returned, whispering, curling in the edges of his mind, more than human now, more than anything bound by time or space. Asterisk, we were never avenging a child. Asterisk, asterisk, we were ensuring we would never be children again. Asterisk, Carter looked at his reflection in the glass. His own face did not move, and the lights flickered out.